Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fantastic. Let's go, sir.
Go.
Okay. The time is now 5 p.m. and so I'm going to call the meeting of the Tipp City Assembly Village School to order. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is work session. This is our work session. Okay, let's start with the text. Will you call the roll, please, Mr. Stevens?
Mrs. Drum,
Here.
Mrs. McMurray,
Here.
Mrs. Dillard,
Here.
Mr. Maines,
Here.
Mr. Thompson. Here. All present and accounted for. We do have a quorum and can continue the meeting.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mr. Stevens. At this time, I will have a motion for approval of the agenda. I'll move that we approve the agenda. Moved by Ms. Dillard. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Maines. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
Dillard,
Yes.
Maines,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
McMurray,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. First item on the agenda is, under discussion items, property taxes and school finance.
This is a section that I asked put on the work session, just to let the board members, keep them aware of what's going on at the state level when it comes to property tax discussion that's happening. So I've provided forwarded some emails from OASBO, the Ohio Association of School Business Officials, and as they keep us apprised of what's happening in the legislature, the things that we're seeing and things that we've discussed previously in the last House bill, or the last planning and budget passed. We saw some things when it came to limiting property taxes. There's questions on school districts carrying over too much cash balance. In the end, it was 100% is what they don't want us to have. So you can't carry over a cash balance that's equal to 100% of your expenditure balance. It started off at 30, 25, 30, with 50, 40, then it went to 100. Other things that were in the bill that didn't pass was eliminating emergency levies. However, that was vetoed by the governor, but it turns out that the veto override was enacted, and so we recently were made aware of the government doing the veto override. Emergency levies are now no longer allowable after this election cycle in November. And so the levies that we have on the ballot that have been previously renewed, I believe they go out to 2030 and 2031. So those will be the last time we have those emergency levies. However, there's language in place right now, or bills in place. I'll bring your attention to House Bill 129. This has been passed by the House. Basically, it wants to restructure certain levies into fixed sum levies. A fixed sum levy is a word that we've used for the emergency levy for years because it brings in the same dollar amount. It's a fixed sum. And so House Bill 129 wants to allow us to renew emergency levies that were approved before 2026 as fixed sum levies. So while the levy override removed emergency levies, this wants to put emergency levies back in, but they want them as fixed sum levies. The good news on that is that any emergency levy that had the rollbacks credit that's paid by the state, so levies that were passed before 2013, homeowners were given a credit and the state paid a portion of that. Levies after 2013 no longer received that credit from the state. They didn't want to pay it anymore. So they said, okay, all new levies don't get that credit. Well, if our emergency levy goes off the books, and there's no way to put it back on, when we pass a new levy, that rollback is gone forever. So with this House Bill 129, if we convert it to a fixed sum levy, it maintains that pre-2013 rollback credit. Now, one of our emergency levies has that credit. The other one does not. That was passed in 2015. That's the one that we just renewed. The much smaller of the two emergency levies, that one currently does not have the rollback credit. So, but the bigger one did have the rollback credit. So if we were to lose that one, that's, I think I mentioned like in an email, about $500,000 of rollback credit that we would lose for our community. The other thing that House Bill 129 wants to do is it wants to move those rollback levies into the 20 mil floor. So in the current calculation of the 20 mil floor, they just use operating levies. Operating levies only. Emergency levies, bond levies, PI levies, they're outside the 20 mil floor. 20 mils is the lowest amount of money that we can collect in the community from our taxpayers. And we have been at the 20 mil floor for a few years now. And so every time there's a valuation increase by the county auditors, we see an increase in tax collection. Even though there was nothing voted, it's just that's how the law is. So the state is trying to figure out how to deal with rising tax costs to our taxpayers. But what we're seeing is they're targeting things that aren't really going to help. And so I know that the governor put together a committee to try to provide suggestions to the legislature on how to try to fix this. OASBO is really trying to come up with ideas on what we can do. I mentioned in a previous board meeting, there was the circuit breaker, which was for those that are truly struggling, which are your senior citizens on a fixed income and have been living in their home for decades. They're probably paying more in taxes than what they might have purchased their house for years ago, and on an annual basis. One of the things that you've probably heard are the what do you call it? Signatures that are going. What's that called? Petition. Thank you very much, Kyle. The petitions are going out right now. People are signing them to try to put an item on next year's ballot to eliminate property taxes altogether in the state of Ohio. That's like $24 billion in school district funding. And so, and that doesn't include the funds that go to your local, your fire departments, police departments, and things like that to fund services. I don't want to get too political here, but one of the suggestions that has been made is to replace the income or the property taxes with income taxes. The problem with that is that it's estimated that we'll see income taxes jump up to 27%. So I did a calculation at 26%, backed off the 7% we're currently paying already, or maybe it was 23%. 23% backed off the 7, so we had 16%. If you bought a car of $30,000 at 16% additional property taxes, that's $5,000 in property tax. Not that we're going to be buying cars every year, but it's going to shift the burden to those that are purchasing items. But there's issues of what about those communities that don't have a lot of commercialism in their county?
Were you saying sales tax?
Sales tax, I apologize. What was I saying? Property tax?
Yeah.
Please forgive me. Sales taxes. Sales taxes. Sales taxes. Sales taxes going up to 26, 27%. I mean, right now we're paying 7. So now add 20% more to that. And then you have your communities, you have your counties where they don't have a lot of commercialism. And so sales tax isn't going to do anything to help them bring in sales tax, bring in tax revenue. The other issue was, what about all the people that own homes in Ohio, but they don't live here? They're rental properties. So you have outside people that own homes in Ohio, no longer paying any type of tax, and it's shifting the burden to all of us that are here in the state. Others said, well, it's just going to push people to go shop for things across the border. I think Indiana is looking to increase their sales taxes, so people will probably go down to Kentucky to buy things. You'll see a lot of traveling back and forth over the state lines. It's just, everybody's still kind of got their hands up in the air going, what's going to happen, what's going on. The county auditor county prosecutor and the county treasurer and one of the county auditor staff members met with all of the treasurers 2 weeks ago at our monthly meeting to discuss the county and what they're going to be doing. And the county auditor told us that because of I know that everybody got their tax valuations, or their home valuations in the mail recently, and we all saw that there was an increase. County auditor said, yeah, the Miami County is looking at an average, I think it was 28% increase on the valuation of the homes, or the 20-0 floor, voted tax increase. So the county auditor said to us, the county's recommendation is that while our general fund taxes will go up because of the 20-0 floor limitation, they're asking us to reduce what we collect in our emergency levies, PI levies, and bond issuances by the same dollar amount, so it's a net zero increase on ag rents. So look, just for example, let's say you're going to see a $1 million increase in the general fund taxes for operating levies. They're suggesting that we allow the county auditor to reduce our collections by $1 million on our emergency levy to offset that increase. It could work for us because we have the emergency levy that could cover that. I'm not saying that I'm fully in agreement with that, but there are other districts in Miami County that they don't have an emergency levy that will cover that. And so it's not going to be the same for everybody. Some of our neighboring school districts are operating in 2 counties. We actually have 1 property in Montgomery County. So what one county does may not be the same for another county. And so now you have children whose parents are paying a different tax rate in one county versus another. So it's statewide. This is an issue for all 88 counties, and everybody's doing things differently. So the county auditor spoke with us, and so this last week, the Miami County ESC, Dave Larson, superintendent, invited treasurers, superintendents, anybody that wanted to come and talk about this issue, because it's been suggested that by OASBO first put the idea out was that we get together locally as school districts in each county to discuss how we want to put a message out to the communities that we're all part of. I can't remember the name of the county up north. Eric, you remember the name of that county? There was one county that put a letter out. All the treasurers and them got together. They put out a letter, and basically, I have a copy of their joint statement. And it's basically talking about how the state has gone down in rankings in education, but we've gone up in the tax burdens have been shifted to residential instead of commercial from what it's been in the past. Aaron, were you gonna?
No, you were talking about the rankings, you've gone down in the state ranking based on funding.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. We fell from 24th to 41st nationally in state revenue per pupil. And then apparently we are ranked 44th in funding public education. And so they're trying to point out that there's issues that have happened at the state level, and they're the reasons why we're having issues with property tax burdens across the state. Another Miami County treasurer sent a letter to his representative and pretty much blasted the state representatives for not doing more to help fix this issue and stop blaming the schools, because we're just operating within the law what we've been limited to, and it's not the school's fault, so please don't say it is. So one of the questions that was asked at the meeting at the ESC last week was how we want to handle messaging Do we want to do it all together, or do we feel like we need to do it separately? There was a lot of hesitation to put out a message with all of us, because right now what's happening is the letters that are going out in different counties are just using the shell that was provided, and they're changing the icons at the top for all of the school district logos. And they're putting out this message, and what is happening in one county isn't the same as happening here. So we were, without seeing a more unified message, having the discussion on what really was to go in that, I know that myself, I was hesitant to jump onto a countywide message at the moment, but I do know that Mr. Larson is still leading the charge with a group effort. There's some treasurers and representatives to superintendents that will be going to a county budget meeting tomorrow, or a county commissioners meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock to provide some testimony. Because I believe what's going to happen tomorrow is they're going to vote on trying to reduce our emergency levies based on the amount of money that we're supposed to see, the windfall, I'm going to say the word windfall, in the general fund because of the 20 mil floor. They're going to approve that tomorrow, I believe, and then ask the boards of education in November to approve allowing them to do that reduction. So, at least, I believe that is my understanding. Mr. Moran, would you say that that's?
Yeah, they need board.
So is the statewide trend, like Miami County is considered more, not as rural as some counties in Ohio, but we are considered a rural county, basically. It's a farming county. So is that a trend that more of the rural counties are moving down in terms of funding?
I don't know the answer to that. I just know that we're lucky that we have the commercial properties that we do have here. The county auditor was not going to reduce the commercial tax collections at this time. He was going to allow that to just go with the increase and the public utility property taxes as well. I know that if property taxes were to go away, those rural county schools would not be able to make up those losses. Another issue that was brought up was if property taxes go away and we can no longer fund our bond issue, it's been said that the state is now on the hook for everybody's bonds. So that's a lot of funds to be on the hook for at the state level. Not quite sure it can do what they're talking about. So there's a lot of unknowns in this process.
Well, that's my question. In terms of the messaging, it seems like there's a lot of unknowns that exist. I don't think it's smart to send out messaging until things are more concrete. Because the last thing you want to do is put out information that then is going to change, and then you have to put it out again. It creates confusion, and it creates a little bit of, it'd be too easy to get our wires crossed. So to me, it would seem prudent to maybe wait until some of these are a little more set in stone, and that way we communicate very clearly to at least our community, this is what's happening, here's how we feel about it, here's what we're doing.
Yeah, for something that's changing on a weekly basis, it's hard to keep a consistent message. I mean, property taxes on their own is such a hard subject to try to communicate.
So when does all this theoretically get put to bed? When is it?
They have until the end of December 31st, 2026 to enact the other vetoes, the override vetoes. Are you sure? I thought it goes all the way through the budget.
Next year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Oh, they've got a long time. Yeah. So they had three
in this state of flux until
Correct.
Potentially until the end of next year.
Yeah, there are some where they're trying to do a clawback, where they're going to go back to calendar years and go and reduce the collections and make us pay it back to provide credits. Yep. There's
a lot of bills out there.
Yeah.
Oh, there's not one idea, there's a lot of bills out there that have different.
They're the ones that I'm all for the targeted assistance, the circuit breaker for those that need it. Targeted relief for those who need it. enhanced property tax relief for senior citizens on a fixed income or citizens with disabilities. I'm all for sustainable growth limits. I mean, the reason why House Bill 920 went into place back in the 70s and why we now have the 20 mil floor is because there wasn't a growth limit, and it just kept going up and up and up and up as valuation went up. And so they put these limits in place, and now we've gone to the very bottom per the law, and there's benefits for that too. It's taken away, overall, they're taking away local control. So what I did mention is House Bill 309, which was also passed by the House last week, gives control to the county budget commissions to reduce our tax collections without any input. They can just say, oh, you have too much money, we're going to limit your tax collections, which is what they're discussing right now, but they have to get our permission to do it first. If House Bill 309 goes through, then they can do what they want to limit our collections based on what they want to do.
So let me ask you a question. I mean, there's a lot of these floating around. Which one concerns you the most regarding our budget and being able to provide fiscally to maintain what we currently have in the district?
Right now, the one that scares me the most is property tax elimination.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the one that gets me the most. I would like the 20 mil floor. It is what if they roll in all the other taxes, so the 20 mil floor changes, that's fine. You give us 15, 20 years, we'll be back at the 20 mil floor again. I'd like to see the 20 mil floor issue addressed. One of the things that's been suggested is it's limited to inflation. I'm all for that. You know, let there be some growth, but not 28%. Let it grow at the inflationary rate. That's the one that I would go for. Right now, we're okay. We're okay. Even if we had this fly.
There's two others.
I know, there's one there and
Even if we didn't see any property tax growth from last year to this year, we would be okay financially. The loss of revenue is where we would be if they took revenue away from us because the county budget commission thought we had too much. That could be what's unsustainable because our forecasts grow hardly any in revenue, and we see the most growth in expenses. And as one line is going up at a steeper rate, our cash balance is going to go down if revenues cannot keep up with expenses. So, but we, in our forecast, did not put in a large growth in valuation for this revaluation year. There was another county and there was another school district that said they used 18% growth in their forecast. And they were relying on that. I mean, that was still a conservative number because 28% is way more than 18%. But if it goes to zero, then their forecast doesn't do very well. Yeah. So we're only projecting like 0.4% increase year over year. I think from this year to next year, I think we get 5 out of 28. But I was looking at it, even if it goes down, it's not going to hurt our financials at this time. Okay. But that doesn't mean that something else could come down the pike that, well, again, imagine if we had zeros in the property tax revenue sections on our forecast.
So where would the funding come from?
Well, we've been told that we have the ability to pass income taxes.
Okay.
You can do it there. So an earned income
If
tax.
it would pass.
If it would pass, correct.
Correct. Okay. I'm just curious of what the anticipated idea is to fund schools if there is no property.
Yeah, I'm just curious, the state wants to change the funding formulas, but are they offering any transition plan? You can't just pull the carpet out of schools.
I have not heard of any.
Do they have some plan to fund the schools differently? It just seems very dramatic to me that all of a sudden we're gonna eliminate all this funding and leave all these 88 counties of schools, 600 school districts?
Yep.
just out in the dark, out in the field with no funding, and just,
When we were meeting with the county
I
auditor,
just can't believe that they would make that kind of decision without some sort of transition plan. I guess I have more expectations.
well, I mentioned that, if they did pull that funding, then the schools would just operate for as long as they had cash, and they'd have to shut their doors.
Right.
I mean, we could make all the cuts in the world, but it wouldn't make up the $17 million in property taxes that we collect. So, and it is. But we are at the, Ms. Moran and I spoke, we feel like we're at the mercy of the state right now, the legislature and our elected officials. And writing letters might just be kicking a beat the hornet's nest, trying to say, hey, this is your fault, not our fault. I mean, some of these letters, I would not want to put my name to just because it's pointing fingers. I don't like that. So,
Have we had conversations? I mean, some of our state senators and representatives are literally living in our backyards. I mean, is there a conversation happening with them?
the ESC has hosted,
David, okay.
he has hosted the superintendents, and Aaron, I know that Mr. Huffman is there. I mean, the discussion is out there. People are saying things to the representatives, but I don't know how much is being heard or being considered, or if some have already just put up a wall and they don't care. I don't know. I don't know.
Can I ask, rolling back all the way to the, source of all these bills, are these bills an attempt to, solve some sort of problem? Or are these just ideas that are being thrown out? Hey, things have been operating this way for a long time, we should probably change it.
I believe for the 2-year budget that was presented, they were just knee-jerk reactions to try to get rid of things, eliminate emergency levies altogether, try to fix the 20 mil floor issue, but that took years to create. And I mean, one of the suggestions was to make it a 15 mil floor.
Let me interject here. I think the concern is if nothing is done, the chances of the property tax vote, eliminating property taxes goes up. That's the concern. If nothing is done, a more drastic step.
That's the problem they're trying to solve.
Well, and I mentioned 27% sales tax. That's,
But then it's right, and then it just gets passed on to everybody else. No matter what happens, it passes to somebody else.
well, you don't have to pay property tax anymore.
If they could eliminate property tax and put our sales tax up to 10% and it all worked out, that wouldn't be a bad deal. But
But that's,
The numbers aren't there.
the numbers are there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this is very interesting.
I feel like we're just along for the ride at the moment.
And then, so back to the messaging thing, I think it's premature. I think if we were going to put anything out, if we were gonna say anything, I think it should be along the lines of, we're aware of the bills that have been proposed. We have,
We're monitoring.
we're monitoring, we have some concerns about them, some are better than others, but there's too much up in the air for us to basically define our position on anything at this point. And so
I think
some things
the
we
other
probably
problem, the other problem that is there is even if they do pass something, they're still gonna have that group out there that wants to eliminate property taxes.
Yes.
That's never gonna stop. So, I don't know the answer.
One treasurer, who I will not name, said, we're gonna watch the world burn with the decisions that are made, and they were almost welcoming it, even though they knew it wasn't the best thing. But they said, this is what's gonna happen, and things are gonna
And
get
this is
bad.
for public school, this isn't impacting the vouchers and things for the private.
No, they still have their state funding.
Okay, I just
That's been,
didn't know if that was
But if
included.
property taxes go away, I think it's going to impact a lot, just not just school,
Not
it's going to be
yeah.
fire,
Absolutely,
police.
fire,
It's
police,
going to impact everybody.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this has been nice.
I will continue to provide updates as they come, as I have before. If there's something more concrete,
Thank
you
you.
know, I'll forward it along. Like I did with the levy, or the veto override that went into
Yeah.
place. It did change emergency levies.
I think the biggest thing is keeping the lines of communication open, and then also for everyone to understand what the impact is, because the average community person, like my parents, I'll use my parents for example, they don't know what a 20 floor is. They don't even understand the emergency levies versus, you know, it's not something that's in their common vocabulary, and so I think, you know, we've been thrust into this and educated as much as we can be, not to your level by any stretch of the imagination. But I think definitely, you know, keeping those lines of communication open, asking, you know, Mr. Larson, Dave Larson, our county commissioners, our local representatives and senators, you know, I think that we just need to keep those lines of communication open so that everybody's on the same page and it's not a lot of guessing as to what that messaging actually is, and having those examples, you know, I would say that I actually had to do taxes regarding something with my child the other day, and I said, do you know how much a sales tax is? And he's like, no. And so I showed and did the 7%, and he was like, whoa, where does that go? I'm like, that's a great question, but that's a whole other topic of conversation for another day. I know, right? Well, that's what it's all about. So I'm just saying, I think that this is there's a lot of feelings involved. There's a lot of, passion. I think at the end of the day, everybody wants to do the right thing, but I'm not sure if everybody knows what that is. But I think Dave appreciating the fact that keeping us, apprised of this information. What does that look like for the district? What does that look like, for our community? I think that's the most important thing that we can ask of you at this point in time.
Is there any way that we can educate the community on some of this stuff? Like, is there some way that we can communicate things that, like understanding why we need property taxes or things like that? Or is that just stuff that we have to continue to tell people? You know what I'm saying? Like, where's that line?
I know that in the past, Mrs. Robbins, when she's put out body profile reports, she includes a section on finances. And right in there, it talks about how much of our budget is by taxes, how much is it from the state. And it just, if you take that piece, and I've said it before, you take that piece of pie away from taxes and we're left with hardly anything. And I think, we've got the visual aid of the pie chart. If you look in the 5-year forecast right now and take out the pie chart that says tax revenue, it states right in there that we are reliant on property tax revenues from our local community because the state, well, one, we have to raise that money because the state says we're able to raise that money, so you need to raise that money because we're not going to give it to you. And that's that wealth index that I mentioned before, where we only see 25% out of the 100% of state funding that they're supposed to give per student. So we're penalized just because we're Tipp City and the ability for our community to raise taxes. So, and then they're going to take away our ability to raise property taxes and we'll have to find something else.
Best, this is just a suggestion. I like where you're going with that, trying to make people more informed. But when you think about the old concept of like the communication funnel, it's like you communicate with certain people first, and then you kind of work your way down the layers. I would think at this point it would be instructive to figure out a way to make sure, like, school administration, even teachers, are sort of aware of like, hey, these are the high level details of kind of what we're looking at. Because one of the things that's going to happen is it's unlikely that a ton of people are going to come to any of us, but they will go to their kid's teacher that they have a relationship with, or they will ask, what does this mean for our schools too? the person that they see randomly that they think has insight, well, if we arm them with a little information, probably not the whole thing and not the entire scope that you've got, but if we give them at least a 30,000 foot view on, you know, this is kind of what's being debated right now, you know, the board's working on it, they're monitoring it, so on and so forth. That might do the job for us. I don't think we'll have to implement any sort of like educational training or anything like that for people to get up to date. I think the stakeholders, if you will, we give them a little bit of the information that they need in order to speak coherently about it at this point. That probably solves 90% of the mystery for people.
Well, Kyle,
Just a suggestion.
one of the things that was said by another treasurer, she was talking with one of her teachers. The teacher had not heard about the idea of elimination of property tax, and when she heard it, she loved it, loved the idea of not having to pay property taxes anymore. And then the treasurer said that you will lose your job. And she went, wait, what? Right, there's no property taxes, let's pay you, and you will lose your job. And she said, well, I don't want that. And it suddenly hit home. It was in her backyard. You won't have a job. And it became more personal.
And I know that Erin has the, tri-area or whatever meetings with the city council representative and the Monroe Township representative. You know, I definitely think that keeping this within that agenda and that communication open, because it's gotta be them as well, because it would impact them just as much. I mean, you call 911, there's nobody coming, so, I mean, yeah.
I believe the county group is going to try to, not just treasurers and superintendents, but also your city level and your villages, your townships, everybody in the county. This affects us all. Yeah. Libraries, senior citizen, senior center. I mean, it's all funded with property taxes.
I think that's a problem as well. Some consolidations need to be sought at the state level too. I don't know, it's, I think people somewhere how many tax employees, there's 6,000 entities that tax, all the townships, schools, libraries, all those things. Maybe consolidations. Maybe some of those, so.
You go to a countywide school district.
Federal
Yes.
housing. We have one. Let's see. Federal housing. That's that they have one school district in the entire county.
Countywide school districts. So we have 9 in Miami County.
So I think it's like federal consolidated hockey. I think that's the,
That keeps me on my brain.
so. It would be one in Miami, one for county.
So it'd be like one board of education. for
Correct.
All the schools in that county.
There would be one school.
You could have multiple high schools.
You could have, right, but it'd be one district.
Okay.
A little less on the local control.
Correct.
I think that a lot of the talk can create a sense of anxiety as
Absolutely.
well. So I think that having the ESC put out information is probably a good method that they're sending a message to everyone, and it's not every school district isn't sending their own message. You know, we don't want people to be fearful.
I don't want any bit of that.
You know, the ESC is looking to help coordinate things, but they're not a taxing entity.
Yeah.
So they don't really have a, they don't have a skin in this game.
They see their clients
Yes.
struggling. We are their client.
Yeah.
So they're trying to coordinate a
If
message.
they don't have their clients, then
Are they,
technically they don't have.
are they
a revenue.
coordinating with the county auditor, and are those
They're
people
trying
at
to have
the
some
table
meetings with
too?
that, yes. That's why that small group of people meeting with them tomorrow. Try to do some things that are come on this way.
And we think that they have a whole nother calendar year to,
For the veto overrides.
But the bills could, I think the bills are ready to put in a Christmas tree.
oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What I think, some still have property tax.
they change emergency levies, I mean, if we can maintain the rollback credit, that's great. You know, call it something else, fixed levy, or fixed sum levy. If they change the floor, if they put more of our levies into it, that's fine, we can work with that. The schools have always worked within what we have. And, you know, if we have to go out and pass another levy, operating wise, we will. We'll do what we need to do. Besides the bond issue that passed, our last new money, not due to the floor, but the last new money was 2015, with that emergency levy. After all the others have been renewals for the bond issue, for the building project.
And how would no income tax impact our CTCs?
They're also funded by property taxes.
You say no.
No property taxes, you mean? Or do you mean
Yeah.
no income?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, I said income, I'm sorry, property taxes, but can't the CTCs also pass a levy?
Yes, so the
Yes.
CTCs are funded with property taxes as well. But they have they're part of more counties.
Counties,
And
right.
so what a 1 mil levy at their level will provide way more funding than a 1 mil levy at just the level of Tennessee.
Right.
So they have a much
Do
larger
they get
valuation.
additional funding like we do from the state?
They do receive funds, yes. It's not calculated the same because they're a CTC, but they do receive state funding. Not that I can think of at this time.
Thanks for being on top of this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
And thank you for the communication. It helps.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're hearing about it, and it's not just, you wake up one morning and everything's different, although sometimes I feel that's the way it's going. You wake up and something else has passed.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so next is gonna be, administrative assistant discussion. Under public content, there's a draft administrative assistant, responsibilities, duties, et cetera.
So I shared this with you. This is the, looking at central office and having discussions with the office in general about some needs that might happen or have occurred since we've instituted some reduction in force from last school year, 24-25. Really looking to help, get some help in the HR administrative assistant is a big piece. And bringing back a part-time position for that would be helpful for the secretarial staff in general. It added workload to them, and being in the front office with interruptions that do occur, because that's their main responsibility is customer service and phone calls. Having somebody who can be dedicated to this and help out with those things would be a good benefit for operations and just being on top of paperwork and all those. What questions might anybody have in regards to that?
You had mentioned bringing back, so we had this position before.
We cut.
We had an HR director.
We had an HR director, but we had also a full-time accounts payable person and another full-time
Subcaller
Yeah.
sub-caller
/ secretary.
secretary at the front office, at the front that would come in. We went to halftime halftime payroll, and
AP.
halftime sub-caller, combined those. We lost one FTE secretarial positions, or half secretarial, half payroll for the treasurer's office, as well as the HR position, and assuming the roles internally. This would add back half of that. We still keep the accounts payable at a halftime. We just add back an HR secretarial position.
I got it. Thank you.
We lost two, one was an admin, and we're looking to gain a half, and it would not be administrative, it's more clerical.
Thank you.
And when somebody comes in somebody who's available. Okay.
It's split between 5 people. Payroll's got some, Chelsea's got some in her substitute coordinator duties, Carrie, Kristen, myself, and we all have a piece of the pie. And it can get confusing on who's done what.
I think it'll just eliminate distractions so that Carrie and Kristen can really focus on their work.
Right.
I mean, every time you're interrupted with a phone call or the doorbell, or, I mean, it's a lot of interruptions. It's very hard to stay focused and complete curriculum work or HR work or superintendent work or, so, I think it's great. And also, we need an ambassador to greet people.
I was gonna say, doesn't seem like there's anybody consistently there when you walk in and
Carrie and Kristen.
I know, but they're, I hate all
A
the.
little bit of.
I do too, so I feel bad every time I'm in the doorbell on the building.
And this would put a full-time person next to somebody part-time.
Right.
Right.
But with the help, your discussion would kind of fall around the 10 to 2 range.
I was gonna say,
That's
yeah.
kind of what we're looking at to help out with that.
Are we looking to vote on this next session, next meeting?
No, it's not on the agenda.
No,
You want to have this discussion.
we'll put it on the next
Put it
meeting
on.
if we decide to.
We could, we could post it and then do everything at one time, but that's
Okay.
when we get with everybody. I know I just set it out, but when we have that discussion before we move forward. So I hear support that this is something everybody can see as a helpful tool. So we'll move forward and getting this out there and bring it to the, see if we can find the candidate. And there might be some juggling internally, to make that happen. We essentially have 3 halftime positions. How do we make that work? Okay. Thank you.
At this time, I would love a motion for adjourning the meeting.
I'll motion.
And moved by Mrs. McMurray, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote.
McMurray,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Dillard,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. The time is now 5:48 p.m.